Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our Ep.9 Draft to Glory franchise mode here in NHL 26. So in last episode, if you did not catch it, we had the season simulation, and our team has started to take that next step, which is quite exciting, and obviously we're still looking to add more depth to our lineup, because right now we have like a legit top line, we have some legit defensemen, I would say, on this roster as well. But obviously there is still a lot of work to go in terms of turning this team into a playoff team, because obviously we still have a really weak goaltending tandem. We don't really have the depth in our lineup either, so I'm hoping that we could address some of that obviously in this episode. But Hromis, the rookie, actually was the best rookie during the season, and he's already technically our best player on paper, which is kind of exciting to see, just because obviously we were expecting guys like Klinga and Benak and Antonio to get more growth, but right now the 18-year-old is technically the best player on this team, so pretty happy with that. Also, guys like Albatozer have been getting good growth, which is also nice to see, so we are starting to build that foundation of a roster, and obviously we're just hoping that guys like Mullen, for instance, continue to get growth, and that we can find some more players to complement those guys as well. So hopefully this episode is the episode to do so, and hopefully we can get some of these guys that are up for renewal like Dave Antonio on a decently long deal long term. So anyways, with that said, let's get your guys' comments, see what you guys have to say about last episode, and then we will get into an intriguing draft for us and see what we could pick up. So the first comment is from Offseason, who says, Urquhart is the pick for sure. You need to help on defense, plus I think the low lead won't be available for your second rounder. So he's saying to go with Urquhart, which is more for, I think, our second round pick, because there was a tough decision in the second round, and there's also still a tough decision in the first round, which I'll show you guys in a little bit. But definitely our first selection in that second round, or actually our only selection, I should say, in that second round, is going to be this Urquhart guy. I'm really excited for this guy because there is a chance he could be a low lead. There's also a chance he could be a medium 4, but he's only 17 years old, and if we look at his attributes, it looks like he's going to be a pretty solid player out of the gate. He's also guaranteed to be 1 year out, so I think this guy is going to be an amazing player for us, and I'm really hoping he's going to be a nice shutdown defenseman to maybe put on a second pairing, maybe even next to somebody like Albatozer, who is an OFD. I think that would be a great option to have, so he's likely going to be our second rounder for sure. But there is definitely some tough decisions with our first round pick, which we'll get to in a little bit, because obviously everybody else is talking about our first round pick, which is going to be kind of an interesting selection, I think, to make for our team. Next comment is from Ice Attack, who says, tough decision for the first pick. Maybe the low lead is better because he's also a gem. I don't know, though. That will be a tough call. And yeah, so the first round pick, this is the dilemma that we currently have. Obviously, we do have a high up pick, but there's not a lot of guys from countries we could actually select from. So technically, the best player from a country we could draft from is this Derek Paxbu guy, who's only a medium top 6, and he's a playmaker. And he currently looks like this. He's currently listed as 2 years out as that medium top 6. Like, he's definitely a solid option because we could use center help behind Benak, of course. And obviously, if Benak eventually leaves this team, he could be that number 1 center at some point in time. However, there is a low elite that's supposed to go in the early second round. And like I just said, Urquhart is going to be our second round selection. So there's a chance that this guy goes late first round, early second. I don't know if he will still be on the board come to second round even. But Jared Law is an interesting player, low elite two-way forward. And if you look at his attributes, based on what I've seen at least, it looks like they should be very similar overall to him in Paxbu. Even though he's supposed to go in the second round, Paxbu is supposed to go in the top 10. Now, the thing that makes Law a little bit better is he doesn't actually have a weakness. But the one thing that makes him worse is that he's actually listed as a 3-year ETA. So I think it's going to be a tough decision, but I might honestly take a huge risk by reaching and grabbing Law with our pick instead of that top 6 forward. So the good thing is that Law apparently has leadership abilities. Same with that Paxbu guy. So we might have a future captain in our names this season, but I'm not too sure. But I think it's not a bad option to go a little bit off the board here for our team. But I'm a little bit not too sure if that top 6 forward is going to pan out better, because like Law's literally probably going to be like a 63. I could see him easily getting up to like an 84 plus overall. Meanwhile, that top 6 forward, I've seen a lot of top 6 forwards that go in the top 10 that end up having pretty solid careers. Like, he might be right around the same overall. He might end up growing to like an 85 plus as a medium top 6. So It kind of sucks not to go with somebody like Paxbu, but his potential is just not as good, I feel like, as a low elite. So likely we will end up going off the board, and instead of getting Paxbu, we'll go with the low top, or not low top 6, low elite. I feel like in future drafts, maybe we'll be able to find more centers than wingers, but it's tough to say. So yeah, it kind of sucks not to go with a guy that's actually projected to go top 10, but I think it's probably the better decision, so that's likely what we'll end up doing, unless something else changes my mind before we make that selection. Next comment is from I'm the Quiet One, who says, Urquhart is projected to go further, but definitely is the better pick. I never trusted actual scout rankings where your scouts think they will end up, but actually go before then. Projected pick by NHL scouts. Kind of like how I picked somebody or someone, and my next pick was like number 100, but my scout said he should go at 101. But the actual NHL says he's 99, and he goes 99. But definitely think the pick should be Urquhart. But if Law does fall in your hands, it's also worth considering to taking him. I don't see a lose-lose scenario in those picks. And yeah, that's one thing I don't really like about the scouting is like he's kind of right. Based on the scouting rank for us, it doesn't seem to really impact what it is. Like the NHL definitely has a better scouting system, like you can see here, like the central scouting ranking. Like we should be going off of this rather than going off our own scout, because it kind of it doesn't really, I don't feel like it's super accurate, the scouts. Maybe it depends on how good your scouts are, but obviously like we don't know for sure if a Law is going to go late first round. Like if we don't take him with our first pick, there's like going to be no chance potentially that he falls maybe to the second round. So he probably goes between these, obviously these spots. Probably 34th, maybe 31st, maybe even goes 32nd or 33rd. But I think obviously reaching for him with our first pick is probably a good chance that he's going to be good, obviously up on that spot. And then hopefully Urquhart is still going to be a second rounder, because if Urquhart doesn't fall to us in that second round, that would kind of suck. He is supposed to go around the early second round, so I think he still should be there. But obviously if he's not, that would be a very colossal failure in my opinion, because he does look like he's going to be one of the better players out of this draft class. The next comment is from the Leaf saying, who says, the Islanders scratching that franchise defenseman shows that EA lied to us because they said that they upgraded the AI's GMs for franchise mode, and not entirely. I mean, technically with this franchise mode, one thing I didn't take into account is the fact that we have injuries turned off. So technically by their logic, the New York Islanders, technically Scott Mayfield right now is the better player in terms of overall rating. They're not really, I guess, looking at the potential, which they probably should, but that's probably why Mayfield played the entire season and Purrington was on the bench, is because of the fact that we have injuries turned off. If we had injuries turned on, there's a good chance that Mayfield or somebody would have went down with an injury and he would have gotten a chance to play. So if obviously we turn injuries back on at some point, I think he'll get back into the lineup. Or maybe if the Islanders are smart, maybe they'll let go of Mayfield this offseason and Purrington will get his opportunity this upcoming season. So kind of annoying, though, that they did scratch him. I do agree with that. Next comment is from Tyler G 1994, who says, Scout Tyler comes to GM Snipe for second round pick. While only scouting goalies, I noticed 3 potential second round skaters. My rankings are number 1 Urquhart, 2nd Law, 3rd Fuller. Also take the German goalie. He's decent. So he's saying obviously Urquhart's definitely the best option for the second round. He was saying Law as well, but Law is probably going to be our first round selection. The other option, which is an interesting one to win, also some people were mentioning about, was Fuller, who is a medium 4 for sure, but he's also listed as a gem, which is interesting. So technically, I guess if Urquhart goes off the board somehow before our second round selection, we'll probably go with Fuller. Otherwise, to me, he really doesn't look that intriguing. Like, I know he's listed as a gem, but the only good thing about him right now is his shooting. Like, I feel like he's the type of medium 4 that might not grow unless that gem helps him grow. But I just feel like Urquhart's definitely the better one to go with, just because I feel like he's definitely more NHL ready, and there's a chance that he actually could be a low elite, which I like low elite defensemen a lot more than a medium 4. Also, I forgot to actually show the goaltender that he was mentioning. We're definitely going to be going with a goalie in this draft as well, that being Akeem Forster from Germany. We do need starter prospects. We only currently have fringe starter goalies, so I think obviously drafting ourselves a goalie that we could actually pick up that has somewhat potential, I think will be good. So we'll definitely draft Forster, but I'm obviously still hoping for eventually down the road that there is an elite goaltender that we could take. And the last and final comment is from Mike Garbrand, who says Law at 1, then Fuller at 2, since he's a top 4 two-way defenseman gem, and Forster at 3. Sign new coaches, maybe split up the top line to help Kearns out, or newly acquired Law on the second line. And yeah, that's an interesting thing. So he was saying to maybe go Fuller with that second round pick as well. Like I said, I don't think he's going to be the selection because I do kind of like Urquhart a little bit better, to be honest. But I do agree with what you're saying about maybe splitting up the top line a bit and then going into next season, because if we are drafting Law in the first round, he is a left winger. It wouldn't be a bad idea to maybe give him some help on that second line, because right now, I guess maybe Mullen could be our second line center, so maybe we don't really need as much help. But obviously, if we're drafting some good forwards in later rounds, we could obviously surround him with some younger guys with some potential. But yeah, I'm not too sure if we'll split up the top line or not. It's really tough to say because I really like this top line and I want these guys to continue growing. But obviously, if we need to, maybe it's a good idea to just give another good player or a guy with some potential a good player to play with, and then maybe his potential could skyrocket from that. So with that said, I think we are ready to hop on into this draft, and hopefully we make the right calls with the selections. Like I said, this is a tough draft class for us because I was thinking about maybe getting that medium 6 still, because I do like some medium 6s, but I kind of like my low leads a little bit better. So we are going to kind of pull off a huge reach by drafting, I think it's 3rd overall, and grabbing a guy that could go 2nd round, but I do think it's probably the right call for our team to make. So anyways, St. Louis has the 1st overall selection, followed by the Kings, and then it is us, of course. And then hopefully with this first pick in that 2nd round, we could draft ourselves Urquhart. So let's see what St. Louis takes at number 1. See if they take anything interesting. They go with the Russian in Chubarov, who is an 83 overall left-wing playmaker. Looking like this. Pretty balanced. Good shooting, actually, for a playmaker, too. And he does have Unstoppable, which is interesting. That's kind of an interesting one for a playmaker to have, to be honest. Because playmakers usually think they're more skilled players. They're not as physical. But this guy apparently has good reverse hits. So is this guy going to be like skating into the zone to try and get an offensive chance and just like knocking people over? I don't really know. But that's still kind of an interesting X factor for a playmaker to have. Because usually I would say that's probably better for a power forward. But maybe this guy's more of an all-around player than just a playmaker. Anyways, the Kings at number 2 are going to select Gibson, who is a 81 overall medium elite defensive defenseman. Obviously an American that we could not select, so there he goes to the Kings. Which means obviously we will have our selection here, which, like I said, Paxbu is intriguing, but I just don't think he's what I need. Also, since he's from Austria and he has leadership abilities, we do not want to have a future captain from Austria. Nothing comes good of drafting a guy with leadership ability from Austria. I'll just say it at that. That's a World War II joke, even though it's probably not a good idea to make World War II jokes. But let's go way off the board here and go for the lowly two-way forward. It's not really a huge risk because we know he could develop for sure, but it is definitely a bit of a gamble. But I think he still should be good. Obviously, at some point, we will need a second-line center, though, behind Benak. But I think Law could start building up our depth in our lineup a little bit more. So let's go for Jared Law from ZSC Lines in Switzerland, as we add another Swiss player to our team. 66 overall. So that's not too bad of a starting point. That's actually pretty damn good. I definitely think he's going to get at least to an 84. But maybe he's a low elite that changes to medium elite with the amount of ice time he'll get on this team. He also actually has some pretty good shooting for a two-way forward. It's all 78s across the board. So maybe he'll be like a two-way forward that could also score consistently. So there's Jared Law. Definitely one of the biggest reaches we've ever done in a franchise mode, but it had to be done. So anyways, we'll take a look through the rest of the top 10 just because I do want to see what Paxbu is looking like. So Anaheim at 4 will select Robitaille, 80 overall medium elite defensive defenseman. You're welcome, Anaheim. Vancouver gets Susan, who's an 80 overall two-way defenseman. So definitely a defense-heavy draft. Maybe that's why that Urquhart guy is falling to the 2nd round, because Gibson already went. You have Robitaille and Susan, so a lot of medium elite defensemen going early. Dallas at 6 is going to take Paige, who's only a medium 4 at 66 overall. Still not bad. Saarinen a 79 overall medium top 6. Damn, that's actually pretty damn good. That makes me worried a little bit that Paxbu could be like a 79, but I don't think so. This guy has actually some pretty good shooting as well for a two-way forward. But anyways, San Jose at 8 is going to select Madsen. Damn, that's a huge steal for San Jose. How did this guy fall to 8? Damn. Yeah, that's a elite steal. Like, that's going to be really good for them to put next to guys like Will Smith, Celebrini, of course, Michael Misa. Like, that's a huge pickup. John Madsen. I don't even know where this guy was from, but 83 overall as an 8th overall selection. Just because these other AI teams decided to go with, like, a top 4. Like, definitely Dallas made the wrong selection there, for sure. But San Jose gets a gift. Is this where Paxbu goes? Yes, it is. He's only a 67, so he technically is only 1 overall better than the low elite. So I think we made the right call potentially right now. But obviously we'll find out how their careers pan out. But right now, Paxbu, his faceoffs aren't even that crazy as a centerman, but definitely they could develop. But I think we made an okay selection. A 66 versus a 67. Low elites I feel like are better than medium 6s, but obviously it depends really who they play with and how much they grow. So kind of an interesting one there. So let's assimilate to our second round selection here now at 34. When was Urquhart supposed to go again? I just want to make sure that we're actually getting him in a way. Obviously we can't make any trades, but he's not supposed to go to 36, 37, 38, somewhere around that. So we should be able to get him. Also, wait a second. What were the other players that we could have drafted in this first round? Just so I could take a look back at them too, potentially. Winchester, Schroeder, and Rogers. Winchester, Schroeder, and Rogers. Okay. So we'll assimilate to our next pick here, and we'll take a look back at that first round a bit. Let's just call it timeout so we could add a little bit more time just so I don't end up losing our selection. But let's take a look back through the rest of this first round here. So Winchester, Rogers, and Schroeder were the other guys that were options to us. Wow, a 78 overall medium 4 just went to the Islanders at 11. That's actually pretty nice. And they have built up a really good defensive prospect pool, like Hammerlick, that franchise defenseman that we could have had. And then also, obviously, Matthew Schaefer's there. So the Islanders are doing a lot of work defensively, apparently, in this franchise. Mo, damn, a 79 going 12th? Holy crap, this draft class actually might be one of the deepest we've seen in terms of overall ratings. God damn. Like a 78 went 13th. 73 there at 14th. Alright. Wow, a high elite goaltender. So that goaltender, we couldn't draft this guy, but he is a high elite going first round. 17th overall. That might be the highest I've seen a goalie go in some time that I haven't made. Damn. Yeah, this draft might be one of the ones we go back to and remember it is a great draft class. Let's see. Where are those other dudes? Winchester was an 80 overall low elite? No way. Are you serious? This was a guy we could have drafted too. Holy shit, man. What the heck? I'm glad I took a timeout to take back of this. Wow. 80 overall, 23rd in the draft, and has unstoppable as a defenseman? Yeah, goddamn. That means Urquhart's going to be fantastic, I think, though. Because this guy is an 80, which means I feel like Urquhart could be a 78 easily, being 1 year out. Maybe even a 77, but damn, man. Winchester probably would have been the better selection over Law at this point. But then again, since we're going with Urquhart second round, maybe not. But that's absolutely bonkers. Damn. The rest of these guys are pretty basic. Schroeder wasn't in anything insane. He's only a medium 6. Yeah, he was listed as a bust, so I guess it makes sense. But there he goes to Minnesota. And the other option did not go yet, I don't think. Let's go through our selection now. But yeah, Rogers is still there, but obviously I don't think Rogers is going to be very good. I think he's going to be on pace with Schroeder. So our selection here is going to be Josh Urquhart in this second round. I am actually really excited to see how good he actually is. Because if that one guy was an 80, this guy has got to be something really high in terms of overall. Like, he could be a 76 overall low elite. Regardless, he should help us a lot on the defensive side of things. So, Josh Urquhart, how good are you? Please be a low elite at least. I don't know if I want a medium 4 with a high overall. I'd prefer low elite. Let's see. Boom. Oh, he's only a medium 4. 71, though, is fantastic out of the gate. Probably should have got Winchester earlier in the draft in a way, but this guy should develop nicely. 71, medium 4. I still say that's fantastic for a second rounder. He's only 17 as well. Yeah, I think that's actually not bad whatsoever. We can't complain because obviously if it was a medium 6, that would be terrible. But I will take a medium 4, but I probably was preferring a low elite there. But I think that's still a fantastic selection, and we can't really complain because he's already technically, I guess, our third best defenseman overall-wise on this team behind Dave Antonio and also the Albertozer guys. So I'll take it. Definitely could have been better, but I definitely think it could have been a lot worse as well. So we can't complain considering the last few draft classes have been pretty bare. Anyways, for the rest of this round, is there anybody that else we could have went with? Rogers. Fuller as the gem is going to be an interesting one. Rogers and Fuller. Faith is a medium 9. I don't really care too much about, but I do want to take back a look at this round again just to see how good Fuller was, just because Mike's probably wondering about that. So let's simulate the 67. Obviously, next we're going to be taking ourselves a goaltender in Forster if he's still on the board, but let's go back through this round. Rogers was only a medium 661. All right, we could not select Livingston, but he is a low elite. Let's get through this. Wow, Beekov's a 76. Damn. Yeah, there's definitely some good players in this class. Like, at least we're seeing a bunch of medium 4s. Fuller was only a 62 medium 4. So I think we obviously made the right selection taking Urquhart over him, but he's definitely a guy that could still develop into being really solid considering there was some medium 6s going before him. Aside from that, who else was the guy's option to us? I don't think there's another lowly and another lowly. Damn, man, I'm seeing a ton of lowlies in this class, which makes me very excited for the future drafts because I think that means maybe more chances for us to build up this roster if we have guys from our country that are lowly. Faith is a medium top 9 as we saw, 62 overall, pretty solid. Nothing crazy though. I'm hoping that some of the other guys we had pinned for later rounds are low leads then. There's a medium elite goalie going. All right. Yeah, it looks like a pretty good draft class, in my opinion. Pretty good. Okay, so there's obviously another defenseman. We're not going to go for Bear Blanchard, even though he's got a cool name. He's 19 years old. We're going to go a little bit off the board here. We're not drafting one of these medium 9s, even though we could add more to our forward group. We definitely need a goalie with potential. Mebus is a gem, but I don't think I'm going to take him, even though he could be low elite because of all these low elites in this class. I think we need ourselves a good goalie prospect just because right now with the fringe starters, they're pretty low overall. So Akeem Forster, he might be 5 years out, but he's got a chance to becoming a legit NHL starter. So let's take him with our selection. I don't know if he's NHL bound this season or AHL bound, but let's see how good he is. And the answer to that is a 47 overall. Pretty low. Pretty damn low. I could have probably taken him next round maybe, but I'm not too sure of how he was projected to go. But 47 overall. Damn. Well, at least he should get some growth within a year or so. But I definitely think the AHL might be the best starting point for a 47, just because that's pretty low for an NHL goalie. So let's simulate to 100th. And let's go back through that round briefly just to see if we missed out on anybody good, if I can remember their names. There's Blanchard, 67. Kabina was a 61. Who else did we have a chance to? Bomick was a 62. Trying to remember who else I could have drafted. There's some low top 4s. Maybe that gem was a low top 4. I don't even remember his name now at this point for some reason. Let's see. Scroll through all that. Yeah, I don't know if he went already. He probably did, but our next option is a medium top 9 sniper. That's not really that bad. We did just draft a left winger, obviously, in our first round selection, but Wakabayashi as a medium 9 sniper, we could always throw him on his offside if we really want to. There's also Mathers as a low 9, but Mathers is only low 9, so as between him, Holden Smiles, doesn't look very good, even though he's smiling. Bembridge is medium 7th probably. There is that Belgian defenseman. I can maybe get him next round if I really want more defensive prospects. But I think we need to keep on building up that forward depth. So I'm going to go for the medium 9 in Malik Wakabayashi from Czechia, who is actually he was born in Hungary, played in Czechia. Let's see how good he is. 55 overall. I don't know if he'll become much because he is only a medium 9. But his shooting categories are okay. If we get him some growth in those shooting areas and we put him next to a good playmaker, maybe he could be a guy that surprises us in growth. So I'll take it. Medium 9s at least are better than a bottom 6 at this point in time. All right, let's simulate to 133. We got a couple more selections to make. And then obviously we got to get through the re-sign stage and all that stuff. I don't think I really need to draft ourselves another goalie right now. Oh, but he's going to be a really good overall, though. That's the only thing. Jan Kvapil's 1 year out. 1 year out as a medium backup. That's really tough to pass up on. Because that will at least help our goalie situation a bit right now. Like, I don't know if I trust those fringe starters and stuff like that very much. Was there anybody else that I had that could be a little lead, that were pinned? Not really. I think I'm going to go for the goaltender. I know I said I was not going to draft another goalie, but seeing his attributes, like if he's a 70 overall medium backup, we could run him until that starter is basically ready for the NHL, which it says 5 years, but could be 3 years, could be less. So, yeah, I think we're going to go for the Slovak goalie and Jan Kvapil here just because he's got a good overall out of the gate. So let's take him. Boom. 72 overall. See, he's legitimately our best goalie we've had up to this point. He doesn't have a high ceiling, but he will be our starting goalie next season, and Lysak might get demoted to backup, which means whoever was the backup last season, I think it's another medium backup, will be sent back to the AHL, which means maybe we'll keep that starting goalie unsigned for a year, just to see if he develops being unsigned. Yeah, that might not be a bad idea. I do like Kvapil as kind of like a stopgap in terms of basically waiting until our other goalies are better. Because, yeah, he might not have a high ceiling, but he could obviously be a legit goalie for us for a bit. Maybe we'll get statistical growth from him. Maybe we'll try and get him to grow into being more of a starter, but I think he's definitely the best goalie we've drafted up to this point. Even better than the fringe starters just because of his overall. All right, 166 now. Let's see if we have any options to us at this point. Wheeler is a low top 9. That's another left winger, though. There's a lot of left wingers in this class. We have drafted some low 9s before and they haven't developed, so I don't know if I'd prefer that or a bottom 6. Saget doesn't look the craziest. Is there anybody down here? Sarich doesn't have really anything scouted. Same goes with Lyons. Lyons might be an AHL top 6, but he might be decent overall, but he's already 19. Sarich is 18. How good are those guys that were supposed to go before? McGuire is 19. Saget is 18 as well. And then Wheeler is 20 years old. Well, we're not going for Wheeler because he's 20. That's a given. McGuire, I don't think I'll go with. It's got to be between probably Saget and Sarich. Sarich is looking like CDC, DDDD. Let's see about the other dudes in Saget. Saget is looking like CDC, ECD, or whatever you want to say. I don't even know, man, my tongue twister. But we're going to go a little bit off the board. We're going to go for the Norwegian left winger instead because he probably looks the best. Maybe he's not going to have good potential, but let's go with Jamie Sarich as this selection. Medium bottom 6. I'll take it. But he's not going to probably develop much, but maybe he could be good in the AHL. I'm not sure. He's got 71 shooting, so let's go to our last selection at 199. And do we have anything interesting to us? This Schubert guy is going to continuously go undrafted probably, but he's one of the only players from the Ice League that we could draft. There is also Aston as a low 7th D at 19. Ugh, that's not great. There's Ob as a medium bottom 6 at 19. Blanchard as 18 years old. I mean, I would prefer the younger player in a way just because they have a higher chance to maybe get some growth. There's also this guy that has the same name as one of the other players on our team, and I almost forgot about him. So just because we have a player with the name already, we're going to draft our second Quentin Caucherain, and we're going to play them potentially at the same line at some point, maybe. I don't know. I just think it's funny to have two people with the same name, so let's make a meme pick with our last selection, as he is a 53. Maybe the game will generate another Quentin Caucherain and we could have an entire line of them. So there is our draft. I would say that's probably our best draft to this point, in a way, because the Law should develop nicely. Arquart's going to be great. Forster has potential to become a good starting goaltender. Wakabayashi is a medium 9. Tough to say. Kvapil's got a stalled overall for a medium backup. And then the other two are kind of just more picks that probably won't pan out, but gives us more depth potentially. All right, Well, we're going to sign all those guys to their DLCs, except for, I think, the goalie. I feel like I want to leave him unsigned for one season. Just because we already have 4 goalies under contract by this point, right? So, let's get these scouts signed back up here. And then we're also going to have to check into coaches once we get past the re-sign stage. Because I do think it is the time, just like Mike was mentioning, about finding a person that has good teaching grades to help out with probably both the NHL and AHL. So we'll probably get rid of our head coach in both the NHL and AHL and see what we could find to potentially give our team a better chance to develop as these years go on, especially considering we don't really still have a ton of potential in our bottom 6. It'd be nice to kind of get some people that could outgrow what they're listed as. Wasn't there 3 scouts listed, or was it only 2? I got to just go back through this again just in case. I just don't want to end up losing one of our good scouts just because I did not give them a contract. So let's just double check on this, because this game is a little bit slow in terms of loading up who is actually needing a contract and who isn't. So I'm just going to skim through this slowly. I think it's good so far. Yeah, I think it was only those 2, but I thought I read 3, but maybe I didn't. All right, so those scouts should hopefully accept. So that is good. Now we got to get to this re-sign stage, which, like I said, we got to give a lot of money here to probably Dave Antonio, lock him up long term. He's obviously the big RFA, but there's also a couple others. So first and foremost, let's go to the bottom of this list here. We are obviously signing anybody that we drafted. I don't know why it's still trying to teach me how to play this game. I've literally gone through multiple seasons at this point. Let's sign everybody that we drafted at least, so that way we sure have our players that have some potential. Kearns is up to a 65. Wasn't he pretty low before? Or maybe he was always around that point. I can't even remember, to be honest. But we'll sign all the guys that we drafted, including the guys even with AHL top 6 potential, because some of them might play in the minors. But obviously we do have some NHLers that are going to need contracts as well. So I'm kind of curious on how much we're going to have to send over to Antonio and Albatozer. I guess we'll technically... Yeah, we'll wait on the other dudes, the filler players for now. But Albatozer, what do you want? 1.2. 1.2 is very cheap for 1 year. If we go 8 years, he has some interest in it. I don't know if I would want to sign him for 8 years. I feel like he could be a solid depth option by the time his contract is in. Like, I feel like that's a good contract regardless of where he's in the lineup. If he's scratched, if he's in the lineup. Maybe we want to go with something like a 5-year deal. Like, I feel like he's going to be cheap regardless. And even if he's in the AHL at like 1.4, I don't think it's going to really hurt us that much cap-wise. Some of you guys might think it's a little bit outrageous to give a guy a 5-year deal that's only a 77, but who knows? Maybe we won't have the defensive depth at that point. So let's do a 5-year deal at 1.65 for Albatozer. I could even give him a clause if I really want to, and then I could lower it maybe. Let's see, that goes there. Let's lower the contract demand a bit. And 1.425 for 5 years with a no trade clause in the last year. Sure, let's just do it. Let's just do it. At this point, he's technically our best defenseman other than Dave Antonio and the Urquhart guy we just drafted. So we might as well lock him up. I probably could have done 8 years, but I'll do a 5-year deal just to kind of see how he is during those 5 years. Dave Antonio, can I get you on an 8-year deal if I give you a no trade clause? Looks like I probably can. How much money are you going to want for those 8 years? Let's see. Looks like he's going to cost us over $7 million, which isn't really that bad because as it goes on, these defensemen are going to want way more money, right? So let's try and get him for 7.7. Yeah, 7.7 for Dave Antonio. I think that's a good contract for 8 years. And then it's a no trade clause for the last 4 years, but obviously we can't make trades, so it doesn't really impact us. So, yeah, I think that's going to work. 8 by 7.7. All right, so that's all good and ready to go. Let's go to the UFAs here. We do have some more filler players there as well. We need to sign our unsigned guys, which are 4 forwards and a defenseman. We're not going to sign Forster yet. We are going to sign Kvapil. So since we're signing Kvapil, we could go to the AHL and let go of Kolars. So we're going to do that. And then we're going to go back to unsign, and we're going to sign that one defenseman and 4 forwards, which means I could go to the UFAs here probably. Actually, the RFA. Probably should let go of Seaver because he's kind of high overall for a guy that we didn't draft. So let's let go of him. But, yeah, let's sign all these unsigned players for a second here. So a defenseman and 4 forwards. And that way we could let go of some people potentially here too. But, yeah, I'm kind of curious on what our lineup's going to look like next season. Obviously, we're going to have more players in the AHL than ever before because we're pretty close to actually having like a full-on roster in both those leagues, I guess. But we'll do that. And I guess we will... we got to let go of a defenseman and 4 forwards. So let's just let go of these RFAs, I guess. And then we need to let go of 2 more forwards in the UFA department. So we'll just let go of the highest overall players, which are Hervinen and Lambacher. And then we will sign all these guys to our cap whale contracts. Yes, we still need cap whales, as weird as it sounds. So let's just do that. 70 million. I gotta make sure that there's enough money still for Dave's contract still too, of course. Let's do that. And these guys will not get as much. Maybe they will still get a decent chunk. Maybe we'll do like 15 million for each of these dudes. I just want to make sure that we have enough money, obviously, for Dave's contract since it's a longer term deal. 15.3. Let's advance the day so we could get Dave signed up so I could actually see how much money I need to give to this next person. But it should be pretty easy. 26.94. Yep, Dave did accept that 8-year extension, so he's on board on a nice little deal. And also, we got Albatozer on that 5-year deal at a very cheap price point. 26.9. So I guess we will do... We could honestly just give him 23 million, and it would only have 3 million in cap space. But there you go. Let's do that. Perfect. Everybody is signed. Like I said, I think Forster being unsigned is probably a good idea. Just because right now... for our goaltending tandems, we literally have 2 AHL goalies, probably going to be Pojar and Whitmore with not much potential. Lysak and Kvapil will run the NHL. But Kvapil will be a starter as a medium backup, which is kind of interesting, but I'm here for it. And then, like I said, once Forster starts to develop, he should help us push these backups out, and then he could get maybe in as a starting job at some point in time. So that's all good. We should have enough players already for next season, so we don't need to really bring in any filler players, and that's good. And our defensive core is starting to get much better with guys like Urquhart being in it too, so that's all set up. Let's simulate to free agency, and then I'll obviously take a look at the coaches available to see if there's an option for us that has good teaching grades that we could start to maybe make our team a little bit better in terms of the simulation. So currently this current head coach doesn't work well with a lot of players, so we're going to get rid of him. I didn't want to demote him. I wanted to just outright fire his butt. So we'll send him out, and we will also do the same with the AHL coach. All right, so is there any coaches with good teaching grades that aren't super high in overall rating or potential and stuff like that? I'd prefer like maybe a B- coach, but maybe we'll take something lower than that. B- AHL head coach. A teaching grade. I feel like A+ teaching grade is obviously the best thing to have, but obviously you want a little bit of higher overall. So let's go with this guy as our NHL head coach, even though he's supposed to be an AHL head coach. So we'll just do that. Actually, we need to see if they work well with our NHL team first. So let's sign this guy actually for the AHL. Let's give him a little bit more money so he could help out with the guys in the minors, because there will be more players down there this season. NHL-wise, though, let's see. This guy is an NHL coach. Who is it? Weinrich, 43%. Who does he work with? He works good with Klinga, not so much with Hromis or Benak that much. Aside from that, doesn't really seem to work with much people other than Klinga, which isn't bad, but I want to see what else there is out there. There's a goalie coach that's listed as a B-. What the heck? Huh. And he's got A teaching grade. That's maybe not bad. But he works well with, actually, pretty balanced with a lot of the top guys. It's nothing crazy with like guys like Klinga, but it's still above 50%. So let's go for DePenta, just because he looks like he's the best option right now. There's probably other options out there, but we might as well just take a random coach that works at least decent with our players, right? So those will be the new coaches to add to the team. The scouts were already still at 20 out of 20. They're all still assigned, which means I think we're ready to advance and see if those coaches accept. And once they do, we'll get our team set up for the upcoming season, take a look at what the new players on our team look like as well. The guys that will be in the AHL, maybe we'll wait until they're in the NHL to take a look at them. Tough to say. But DePenta's on board as the head coach of the NHL team. We'll see how good he fits the roster and what the chemistry looks like. And Tapper is on board for the AHL. Nice. All right, simulate to next season. Excited to get into... Actually, I wanted to do some off-season focuses. Can I still do it? Yes, I can. Okay, good. I almost forgot about doing this. I do want to work on a few players. I don't usually like using this function too often now, but I feel like it's important in these early years to probably work on it. Like, let's keep on getting Albatozer's offensive awareness better and his passing and all that. Try and get him to become something better than he is. And obviously we're going to still keep on getting guys like Hromis better as well, which right now I'm not too sure what these guys need to be better at, but let's just get Hromis better at skating. I'm not really too sure what he needs to work on, but just gotta put it into some area. Klinga and Benak as well. Considering these guys have high ceilings, we want them to reach it, of course. Offensive, let's go with skating again on Klinga, because I feel like his shooting's already really good. Apparently his skating actually could use the most improvement, so that's actually good that we use that on him. Benak, I want him to continuously get better if he can. Maybe at face-offs, just because I don't know how good his face-offs are right now, so might as well get him to win us some more face-offs. And then Dave Antonio. And then we'll also maybe do Kavapil because he's a high overall for a backup. Dave Antonio, defensively, let's see. Let's get him better physically. Sure. I know he's already pretty physically. He's like, do you know who you're talking to? Oh, that's actually kind of funny. Yeah, so he's already a really physical player, but we just told him to get more physical, and he's just like, bro, I already am physical, so that's kind of hilarious. I guess Urquhart should use some maybe focus as well, just because he's got some potential. Let's keep on getting him better defensively as well. Maybe physicality. Sure. I don't know how physical he already is. So might as well get him more physical as a DFD, so he can be a good shutdown player. And then I think I said, yeah, let's just do Kavapil. Since he's got like a high overall, maybe we could somehow get him to outgrow what he is. And let's get reflexes better. I don't really know. I'm kind of curious if we could get him to outgrow that medium backup status, but maybe not. And the rest of these guys don't really have as much potential, so I'm not going to worry too much on them. There is actually some low leads, though, right, to take a note of, at least in the AHL, which was like Paco. So maybe we do want to swap on over to the AHL and talk to Paco as well. Hopefully Paco is going to be good next season and again in the AHL. And let's continuously work on his offense since he is an offensive defenseman. So get that awareness better. Because if he could become a really good offensive defenseman, we might have a guy that could definitely grow to being really good. So there's that. Let's simulate the next season now and then get our lineup set up. But I am excited to see who's going to be on the NHL team next season. There's going to definitely be some guys like Masterliski, Reber, who might be in the minors next year. Because we're starting to build up a team of all of our players that are much better potential than a medium AHL top 6 forward. So very curious to see what the lineup looks like, what these new players look like as well in terms of their faces and all that. But we're going to keep it with no captain, I think, to start the season as well. I know it's still naming Masterliski. I think that's fine for now. But I'm honestly not too sure if we still want to name a captain yet at this point. Because obviously we're still not winning a ton of games yet. So let's do some roster moves and see who will be sent down, who will be called up. So goaltending, Kavapil and Lysak. AHL, Pojar, and Whitmore. I think that's perfect. Defensively, Dave Antonio, Albatozer, Urquhart, Emerson. Paco gets up to a 67 now? Wow. He actually grew really good. Because I feel like he was even lower in last episode, but he's a 67 at 19. That's a tough decision. Does he start in the NHL or does he start in the AHL? He is technically better already than some people. We have to send Lundstrom down because he's not one of ours anyways. That's 7 defensemen right now. Andrews would have to get scratched potentially or sent to the AHL, I guess, technically. Let's see. Andrews only has medium 6 potential, right? But he was a second rounder. How good was he last season? 10 points. I'm almost thinking we give Paco the opportunity because we do need more right-handed defensemen in the lineup. I know some people are saying to wait on Paco a little bit before he gets into the NHL, but he did jump up a lot in overall, and he's technically one of our best defensemen already. So I think I'm going to send Andrews down for the time being, but if you guys want me to change that for next episode, sending Paco back to the AHL, let me know. Because I think right now Paco is definitely doing better than anticipated. Let's just go best line so we can get rid of that, and let's continue to do some roster moves. But yeah, I think that's what we're going to go with for now. Because technically, I guess we could play Paco with Urquhart. Ooh, I actually really like that. I really like that a lot now. I didn't even think about Paco being that offensive defenseman. I was thinking always about Albertozer, but Albertozer and Antonio, both an offense and a defensive defenseman. Urquhart and Paco, offensive and defensive. And then you have Emerson, offensive, and Bednar is a two-way. So we probably don't need Emerson in this lineup eventually because that's probably too many OFDs, but I think that's probably our best option to go with. Anyways, in terms of our forwards, Hromis, Veet is still there. I'd prefer probably guys with potential over Veet to be in the NHL, so we're going to call up Norbert Schmidt again over Zaheshki. We're going to send him down. We also could call up Koshrain for the time being, just to see if he actually makes the lineup. Left wing side of things, Klinga, Masterliski, Kearns, and Law. AHL has Koshrain. I got to call up that one for sure. Wakabayashi is ours as well. Nichols has top 6-4 potential, doesn't he? Yeah, he does. But he wasn't very effective in the NHL last year. Do I want to send Masterliski down? Not yet. Let's call up Koshrain for sure, though. I think Wakabayashi could use some AHL time, same with Sarich. So that way we're not fully rushing these guys. Centers, Banak, Mullen, Reber, Barrett, Christoph Sazongoth, and Keller. Keller's got to get sent down. We don't need depth options up here. So we will definitely be sending Keller down. Ramsey's probably going to stay in the AHL. And that means we need to send down one more player or else they will end up being scratched. I mean, I might have to scratch Masterliski or Reber at this point. I'd probably prefer to keep Kearns up here just because he could maybe randomly develop. So I think we're going to send down Masterliski because Law's going to take his replacement on that second line. I think that's going to be what it is. So that's all good and ready to go. Let's go best lines here and see what we're working with in terms of our team. So right now, Mullen is technically the second line center. He doesn't have great face-offs, though. That's not ideal. So I could use him maybe more as a winger. But I want Law on that line for sure on that second line. So maybe we'll go Law on his offhand. And then he could play with Barrett and Mullen. And then Kearns could play with Sazongoth. Actually, Sazongoth's face-offs were decent. Reber doesn't really matter too much because he's not a prospect of ours anymore, really. And not that I care about, at least. Sazongoth could go down to the fourth line and play with the Koshrains, maybe. Right wing Koshrain, left wing, right wing Koshrain. We have two Quentin Koshrains on the same line. That looks ridiculous, but it's only a -1, so I think that's what we're going to go with for the forward group because nobody will be scratched. It's still not the craziest, but most of the guys with potential are higher in the lineup, so I like that. We could still split up that top line if you guys want to, and that way we can maybe get some of these guys to grow better, but I think right now it's fine. Defensively, Albertozer and Antonio. Urquhart is going to play with Paco, but Emerson and Bednar don't work the best together, but we aren't going to be winning a lot of games anyway, so I don't know if we care too much about that -1. And then Kavapel and Lysak in net. We need to make sure, though, Paco and stuff like that are on the power play. First unit looks decent. Mullen's getting first power play time. I don't mind that. Paco on the second power play unit. We should probably put Dave on the power play at number 2, just because even though he's a DFD, he is a high overall defenseman. Why did he drop down to an 81? That's kind of weird. He's probably going to be up to an 84 eventually again soon. That might be morale related, but let's put Paco on there with Dave Antonio. Zongoth, Reaper, and Law. I don't know about Zongoth being on the power play. Trying to think of who could also be in the power play. Who was on the first unit that... Okay, all the top guys pretty much in Albatozer, Mullen. I could move Albatozer always to the second unit instead of Paco. Let's just do that. You know, the overall difference is crazy. I just want Paco to have a really good year. So, and I think getting a chance to play with Benak, Horomis, and all those dudes would be fantastic for him. So I think we're going to go with that as our power play. But the second unit, I still don't know if I want other players on it. We should probably give the guys with some potential in there a chance. Barrett's not on the power play, so let's take Reber off and kind of wean out these AHL top 6 forwards. We'll get Barrett on there, and we will also throw in... This Koshrain's a grinder. The other Koshrain is a playmaker, so let's give him a chance. And that will be good for that unit too. And then we'll take Albatozer off this unit. Like I said, I want Paco getting a good chunk of ice time this year if he's going to stay in the NHL. I think you guys will probably agree that he should probably be in these type of spots. So let's get Albatozer to the second unit. And we'll take Reber off this one and give that to... I guess Mullen wouldn't be on the first unit anymore, right? Yeah, he wouldn't be. Let's give Mullen this opportunity. And that should be good. Perfect. Penalty kill obviously doesn't matter as much, but Law's getting first line penalty kill time. Dave Antonio and Arcourt both on the same PK is great as well. So I don't think I really care too much about the rest of that, but I think that looks good. I think that looks good. There's still not a lot of potential in some areas, but I think it's probably the best we could do. So technically the guys in the AHL that have potential that we've drafted need to be as high as possible, which means Masterliski needs to be lower in the lineup. Samson wasn't ours, right? No, he wasn't. That's what I thought. Sarich needs to be higher for sure too. We'll move Ramsey up higher than Keller. And we will move Nichols all the way to the top line because he's got top 6-4 potential. Let's go with that. Boom. So that's the forward group. The AHL defensive group, we're obviously going to move Seidel up because he's one of ours. Lundstrom was one of ours, but he's not a guy I could actually play. So we'll just leave him in the lineup regardless. Pojar and Whitmore, that's fine. And that's all good. Perfect. So the NHL and the AHL is set up. I think it's going to be decent. Obviously, still not a lot of good depth. But if Law gets a lot of growth this season, if we get Paco growing, this defensive core is starting to come together. And in this goaltending tandem, should be better than last year just because of the 72 from Kavapel. So, final things we got to take a look at are these new players and what they look like on our team. And then we'll also take a look at the upcoming draft class and see if it's a draft class that will benefit us or if it will be not a good one. But let's go to edit player and take a look at these new guys on our team, including the second Quentin Koshrain, which is hilarious. But first and foremost, goaltender Jan Kavapel, the Slovak. Only backup potential, but a high overall. What does he look like? Looks like he's wearing some old Vaughn vintage kind of pads and stuff, which is kind of cool. That's kind of cool. But what about his face? Let's go to his beard style, see how long it grows and all that. Okay, he looks pretty basic. Looks like a typical maybe Slovak kind of guy. Beard doesn't grow super long. Has interesting looking eyes. Alright, 31. I don't like how they all have like black pads, but I feel like our color system would work kind of well with these pads once they load in game. So that's kind of cool, but let's discard changes on that. So that's Kavapel. Let's head to defense. We'll take a look at Urquhart probably already. Yeah, let's take a look at Urquhart already. We'll take a look at Paco as well, because Paco, he was in the HL last year, so we don't know what he looks like yet. But this is Josh Urquhart, the Danish? Yeah, I think he was a Danish defenseman. Oh, boy. He looks like a guy that just, like, says he's 18, but he's literally, like, 50 years old. Gray hair, barely any hair. I feel bad for his genetics completely. Goddamn. No beard either. So, This guy's a warrior in a way, but is he a good one? Who knows? But he should definitely develop into be something decent for us. But what the heck is he going to look like when he retires? If he looks like that at 18 years old, I bet you when he retires, he'd look like, I don't know, like a tombstone, basically. Oh, man. Okay, anyways, next up, we have to take a look at Bob Paco. Like I said, we didn't see what this guy looked like because he was in the AHL all last year. 19 points in the minors, which is pretty good. And he did get a lot of growth. I think this year could be big for him if he's getting power play time with all those big guys. So, kind of excited for Paco, even though he never played an NHL game yet. So, let's take a look at him. He's got the big beard, and it's a red beard too. How big does it get? Does it get pretty big? Oh, it gets full. Okay, this guy is definitely nicknamed like Redbeard or something. Bob Paco definitely looks like he would have been a pirate or something like that, like stepping off a pirate ship. Yeah, I like this. Good old Redbeard. Paco. God damn. The name Bob also kind of fits that big beard and stuff, I feel like. So, shout out to Paco, our bearded OFD. He might be like Brent Burns. Who knows at this point. All right, forward-wise. This is the new Quentin Caucherain. We saw a Quentin Caucherain last year, but this is the new one, so we have two of them. It won't be long before this one gets weaned out, though, because he's only got bottom six potential. But let's take a look at what this one looks like. I don't remember what the other one looked like, but this one, looking like a blonde guy, just like some of the other players we've seen before. Got a blonde beard, too. How long does it grow? Only to one. So he doesn't grow it super long, but looks pretty cool. And where's number 4 as a forward, which is interesting. All right, so there's Caucherain. We've already seen Schmidt and Hromis. Left wing wise, we have not taken a look at Law yet, so this is going to be the main event then technically. What does Jared Law, the guy we took first round, look like? Hopefully he looks pretty cool, considering he was supposed to go second round, but let's see what he looks like. He looks Asian, which is interesting because he's from Switzerland. And his name doesn't say that he's Asian, but he's definitely part Asian of some sort. And he does have a little bit of a beard, but it does not really grow that far. Actually, no, he doesn't grow a beard. Never mind. It has a beard selected, but it does not grow in terms of length. So he's just always saying clean shaven, which is interesting. But number 94 for Mr. Jared Law. All right. I guess technically maybe he Englishized that last name because Law and La and stuff like that. Maybe he Englishized it because maybe it was originally an Asian last name and he changed it over to an English one, even though he played in Switzerland and was born in Switzerland. I honestly don't know how he became a Swiss person, but that's kind of interesting. And I think we've taken a look at everybody else on the NHL team. We won't take a look at the AHL guys yet because we will wait till they get to the NHL, but kind of some interesting faces to join the team. And now if we look at like all these ratings here on our roster, we're starting to finally build up a bit of a good amount of depth. Obviously, there's still a lot of potential that we need to get, but we have some elite players. We have some top 6 guys, some top 4s, but there's definitely more work to go. And that ties into this next part. What does this draft class look like? Last year, obviously this year, technically in this episode, we had a 3rd overall pick, and the next best player that we could have drafted was supposed to go 9th. He didn't look anything insane. Is this a draft class that has a projected top 3 player that could be elite from a country we could take from? Or are they going to be potentially a later round steal again? Let's see. The answer is no. Well, it's going to be another draft class like last year based on that. Hopefully we could take some good players in later rounds. But this guy has a German last name in Kraus, but he was literally an American. That kind of annoys me. But yeah, Ristolainen for Finland. We can't even take any of these dudes. So who's the first player we can actually take this year? This Polish right winger by the name of Russ Walton. I don't mind that. We do need more right wing depth too, so I'll take it. But I was hoping really for a high up guy. But still, Polish right winger could fit into our top 6 if he's top 6 forward. I'll take that. But obviously we're hoping for some low leads as well. Oh, there's a Slovenian player, Emiliano Pete. That's also supposed to go first round. Let's actually go by each league again, just because I feel like it makes it a little bit more easier to see who we could actually pick. So from Germany, There's a guy projected second round, Brock Polacek, as a defenseman. We'll pin him. Polish defenseman in Dawson MacArthur, Slovak in Lubomir Zubris, German in Rolf Geisberger. And then there is also Trevor Turris from Austria. And Landon's not supposed to get drafted, but he might get drafted. Who knows? Not a lot of players from Germany again, unfortunately. From the Swiss League, there is Warren Gardner supposed to go first round as a defenseman. There is also a center in Roger Green supposed to go first round. Maybe we go off the board for Roger Green because we need center depth. There's also another Poxpo from Austria in Terrell. He is supposed to go second round. Also a French defenseman, Brendan Leach. Such a French name. Zachariah Pera from Austria. And we have a couple Swiss guys coming up here too. Alan Rizzi. What about Bermanis? Murray Bermanis. And there's an Austrian left winger by the name of Dante Locke. And also Frederick McCormick. Everybody else is not supposed to get drafted, but seems like right now the NLA is developing more prospects than Germany is. Czechia has Emiliano Pete, who we just saw. They also have a Hungarian Timothy Kennedy. All right. Almost Tim Kennedy, I guess. Technically, there is also left winger Hudler, defenseman in Perron. At least Czechia seems to be a little more in depth, but kind of sucks that nobody's supposed to go top 5. So, kind of wondering what we're going to end up going with again. And then the Ice League is starting to develop a couple more prospects. There's only 4 of them, though. Garrett Kavanaugh from Austria. There is also Jakub Salak again, who was there, I think, last year. And then there's a couple more Italians, Cadman Weidman. And then there's also Ackers as a goalie. If we had the SHL from Poland, there's a guy named Malpi. There's a Polish guy playing in Sweden. I did not expect to see that. But the best Danish guy is not supposed to go till later this year, so a little bit weak. Keegan Trevelyan. He's also 19 years old. And then we head to Finland. There is also Walton, who's that Polish guy we were just mentioning about. There's also Bradford and Jennings. And there's also DeFazio as a goalie. But he was projected originally late. There's also Ruchin, Raffle. Alright, looks like there's going to be some players for sure that we could draft, but I'm honestly not sure on the potential. A guy named Tyler Wang from Norway. That's kind of strange. Miller, Morgan, Stapleton. Looks like a good amount of Danish guys in Finland. So, that's good. Klubertants as well. So, there you go. And also, we got to take a look at Russia briefly, too. Just to see if there's anybody that's not USSR, which all these guys are. Yep, all these guys are. Rest of the world, anybody? No rest of the world prospects. Okay. See, I don't know what we're going to do when we get to this draft as well. It's going to be pretty similar to this year's draft, I guess. But I think Walton's probably the best option right now, as we know. He's probably a top 6 forward. But it could also probably be between guys like Pete. Maybe Gardner's a medium 4 as a Belgian defenseman. Green might be a medium 6 as well. So I guess regardless, we're getting somebody for the top 6 or for the top 4 pairings, which is good. But it's not going to be an elite player like a few years ago. So anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of our Europe-United Draft to Glory franchise mode. So in next episode, we will simulate the season. We'll see if this team could take that next step with some new coaches involved, with some higher overall players in it. Hopefully we get some good growth as well. And then hopefully the draft class, we're able to maybe get some steals. Like maybe some of those players we pinned are actually low elite. Maybe they're medium 4s. But regardless, I'm excited to see what we could pick up again. So stay down below, and I'll see you guys next time.